Good morning. Oh, hope everybody's having a great day. Sun's shining here in Wisconsin. Hope the sun's shining where you are. Busy day again scheduled for me, trying to get a crop in and trying to produce a show. So something's always going on for me. As always, thank you for joining me this morning. And, if you're new to the show, please subscribe. Please like the videos. Please share the videos, and please comment. I'd love to hear your comments. And of course, call in 715-352-0801. And chat with me while the show's going on. We have the chat feature turned on, and more than happy to, repost the phone number if you don't remember it, or talk about anything through the chat line if you're not comfortable calling in. Lots of interesting things going on, of course, every day. News seems to be more and more quiet. Some exciting things going on at the Supreme Court here in Wisconsin. Legislatures trying to, discover or establish just how far the Wisconsin Department of Health has gone. Have they gone too far? What can they do about it? And it's interesting because, once again, it's just politics. Because one of the arguments the state made, being through Governor Evers' office, is that when the question was asked is where did the broad power come from, who has the authority to do that, and who gave them that authority, the answer very simply was the legislature. So Scott Walker and the legislature over the past years have given the governor and the health department the authority to act in the way they are acting. And their response to any questions about what should be done differently, they basically said it needs to go back to the legislature, which is something I've been arguing for the last several weeks, is that this really is in the hands of the legislature. The statute very clearly shows that an order issued by Governor Evers can be modified by a vote of the legislature. And I'm sorry, and sometimes I'm not really sorry, but just trying to be congenial here and saying the legislature's not doing their job. And I've been saying it for the last few weeks. They should have a vote. They should put a bill in front of Governor Evers lifting the stay-at-home order, potentially providing some recommendations to the public on how to, slow the spread or keep the spread going. But again, everybody touts, this would be based on scientific data. And there are lots of things that are being done that are very unscientific. But we take everybody's word for it just simply because they have a title. That doesn't necessarily mean they know what they're talking about. So we are seeing that handed off to the Supreme Court here this morning. And once again, we'll be waiting to see what our Supreme Court says to keep people safe, or to keep people safe and let them go back to work, or any combination thereof. It's interesting, if you've been watching the debates between Tricia Zunker and Tom Tiffany, if you are on Facebook at all and you follow events, it happens that Tricia Zunker, who is saying she supports the stay-at-home orders, she supports everything that's going on, is now magically holding a drive-through signature campaign day on Saturday, May 12th. And she is very clearly violating the stay-at-home order by holding this event on Saturday. And that brings into play, what we've been talking about, and other broadcasters have been talking about, that our legislators are people who we have put in place to represent us, and people even of authority are simply not following their own rules. Again, it's do as I say, not as I do. And so they, try to make it look political and try to make it seem like they're doing everything to keep everybody safe, and yet there are countless news stories across the country of people who are making these decisions, telling people they need to stay home, and then having people over, or going to get a haircut, or walking with a number of people in the park in high congested areas. And when they're confronted about it, they get upset because someone's actually questioning their actions. Well, if that's not elitist behavior, I don't know what is. If you're not concerned about people staying at home because you're out roaming around the countryside, then why are you making people stay at home? And there isn't any evidence that masks produce any kind of safety. I mean, I've talked about it yesterday. Nobody talks about how much or how little these masks stop when you cough or sneeze. Nobody's talking about how much more you touch your face, the mask, your eyes, your ears, whatever, because you have this physical entity on your face. And so are we just complying because somebody told us it's okay, and not using some common sense that says, I breathe through this mask the entire time it's on, and if somebody coughs near me and those droplets land on my mask, I'm breathing that moisture in. The masks that people are wearing are not designed to stop anything. They have no technology in the mask to stop anything. In fact, their technology would simply collect additional viruses or dirt or anything. And then if you were to touch a surface and then touch the front of the mask, you've now and the virus was there, you're now put the virus on this cloth mask. So once again, we're not being presented with any data that says this is how a mask works, this is why it's going to stop something. It's the new mantra: wear a mask, wear a mask, wear a mask. And we've seen that in, for example, Michigan, the most extreme case of opposition to the mask and opposition to the governor. And, again, you can see what happens when people have are unduly restricted, or the restrictions are so severe that they finally just start to revolt. And violence occurred as a result of someone trying to force a woman to wear a mask. Her husband and their son came with, and ultimately ended up in the son shooting the individual who was trying to force his mom to wear a mask. And that is just unbelievable. That, number one, it would reach a point where an altercation is occurring related to a mask. I mean, I think people need to understand that gently telling somebody they need to wear a mask and moving on is probably the better idea than trying to socially shame them and create the potential for some sort of negative interaction, or ultimately resorting to some kind of violence. We've seen numerous cases where people take it upon themselves to say they're going to police the world and enforce these measures. And when they're so inconsistent, they're so unsupported by science, there are a lot of people out there saying, I'm not wearing a mask. I mean, wearing a mask is worse than not wearing a mask. I mean, and unless somebody's going to tell them different, or, a company demonstrates somehow that their mask is actually doing that, I don't think you're going to get people to wear them. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And moreover, over time, people are not going to wear masks, because we're all smart enough to know that ultimately this virus is going to infect everyone. I mean, the flu infects everyone. I mean, it has for decades. I mean, it's going to happen. And instead of making people afraid, we need to help people understand what's going to happen when that happens, right? So we need to continue to try to weed through what is being told to us by people who are trying to control our lives and ultimately control an election year and try to influence the outcomes by creating this fear. And it's unfortunate that, people are not getting the information that helps them better understand. Or, to be honest with you, shame on you if you're not seeking it out and you're just blindly taking what people are telling you as the truth. It's just not. And it's interesting, on a sidebar, the census. I keep getting notifications to do the census, and we've stopped having the conversation about the census. But, the part that troubles me about the census is, the question was asked by the president, how do we keep it to the people who are legally here? Why do we allow people who are illegally in the country to fill out the census? Well, again, back to redistricting, people who want to have larger districts or want to control a larger portion want everybody who's physically in that area, even if they're there illegally, to fill out the census, which to me seems like, well, that's not really a fair representation of the people who are being represented. And making sure the money is being distributed, or whatever the census data is used to determine, political boundaries, funding for different types of government projects. All of this information is used to help establish how they redistribute the dollars across the state and across the country. So to me, it seems ludicrous that we're being asked to fill out something that in my mind is just illegal to begin with, because you should have to be a citizen of this country to fill out the census. You should have to be legally here. And so people with green cards, should they be filling out the census? I mean, people who are green cards are here visiting. And until they become a citizen, then they're not here permanently. And permanent citizens should be the ones filling out the census and establishing these boundaries and representation. There's a process. We've talked about immigration on other videos. There's a process that needs to be followed, and there's a reason their process is there. And again, just like we're experiencing with the issue of the Wisconsin Department of Health, if we want something different, then we need to change it. But until that time, then if we've given the power to a single group, or we've given a process to a group of people trying to get in the country, that's the process they have to follow. And then if we want something different, we need to do something about it, which, I've talked about in a previous video here recently, is why me? Why make that decision? Why decide that you're going to step up and start being vocal about issues and trying to create awareness and have people spend time doing research and understanding what's going on in order to make decisions about how they feel about how the country should be run, what should happen in the country. Should a governor be able to have the authority to shut down the state on his own? Obviously, the governor isn't going to do the right thing, which is include the legislature, so that didn't work. So how do you change it? I've had countless hours of conversations with a relative of mine related to that. Yeah, you can piss and moan all day about what you think should be done, but if you never step up, if you never take on the responsibility to make yourself heard, to bring people to your cause, to talk about what's important, to try to help people to understand why you're saying what you're saying, and try to make a difference inside the confines of the law, or to change the law, or to change a policy, or to change who's leading the part of the world you're living in. If you do nothing, you're going to get nothing. If you always do what you've always done, you're always going to get what you've always gotten. That's been a principle forever. And so if you want to make a change, you've got to make a change. And so on that note, coming to change, again, I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives, District 7, because I don't believe the people, Tom Tiffany and Tricia Zunker, are the right people for representing the state of Wisconsin. I don't think we're going to get anything different. I don't think we're going to see anything change, and we're simply going to send another yes man or a yes woman to the Capitol. And one's going to be more liberal than the other, one's going to be more conservative than the other. And are they truly representing the largest population? And are they representing everyone once they're elected? Because that's another thing we don't talk about. So, yes, representation should be based on someone who's willing to not only compromise in the Congress, but to compromise with the people they represent, and to provide leadership. And we talked about historic leadership, and to, help people understand why a decision is being made, but more importantly, to listen. And that's where I started back in September, saying that I'm not here to tell you how we're going to make decisions. I'm not here to tell you how I'm going to make decisions. I'm here to tell you that my job is to listen to you. And my job is to take the information that you present to me and find a way to build consensus amongst the people I represent, and then carry that message to Congress. And that's the thing that should be said to us, not he's going to decide or she's going to decide or this is what I did and this is what I did. And no, what did you do that was a consensus? What did you do to build consensus, even on the state level, with your constituents, to understand that the policy you're pushing or the policy you're supporting really reflects a true majority or a consensus from everyone who's been involved, and everybody's agreed that that's the right thing to do. That's what we've lost in this country. I had a wonderful conversation with my daughter yesterday about having civil discourse. Civil discourse is what is needed, and being able to communicate across the aisle, across the district, across the state, and to make decisions is what's needed. Yes, there are times when stronger action needs to be taken when you can't reach agreement. And in the course of these actions, we make a change. But ultimately, if you think about our founding fathers, none of those people agreed with each other. Every one of them was out for something that initially was just specific to them. And then over time, while they lived in this country, in the new world, they saw the benefits. They experienced different things that caused them to believe they needed to take action against the government that was oppressing them. And they came together, and through civil discourse, meaning, you can't be attacking people because of the way they think. You have to find a common ground, and it's required on both sides. Nobody's right. Not everybody's wrong. There has to be some sort of concession. There has to be a decision that represents the will of the people, and also then conforms with the prior agreements, like the Bill of Rights or the Constitution. So those are things that I want you to think about today. Again, I appreciate you staying with me, if you stayed with me here for the last 20 minutes. And I want to say thank you, and please subscribe if you're new. Please subscribe if you're new and you're watching this video because you found it on YouTube in your search or somebody shared it with you. And please, again, like the video. It helps me in my search engines. And please share the video. And as always, during the show, please call in, 715-352-0801. And again, would ask that you go to my website at trailblazer19.com and help me with my nomination papers. Fill out the nomination paper and send me your signature so I can get on the ballot to run for the U.S. House of Representatives. And on that note, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.